So welcome to our session on online tools for marketing and organizing your club. I'm going to be talking about WordPress for Toastmasters primarily. I'm going to be just explaining along the way exactly what WordPress for Toastmasters is, and then we'll talk about some related tools that can be helpful in combination with it. This meeting will be recorded, so your picture may be captured. If you continue beyond this point, you were giving me a little bit of a video release because we'll publish the video replay after the fact for people who weren't able to attend live. If you're not used to being in an online meeting, know that it's a good idea to use a headset, or just earbuds will work in a pinch just to prevent audio feedback. Also mute your mic when it's not your turn. Be aware that if you are typing and using the microphone built into your keyboard, that sounds like thunder. So mute your mic, turn off your video if you're going to do something distracting. But we do want to see who we're interacting with if possible. And this is just a little video demo of the basic value. The idea that you can have a website that is optimized for search and social media. You can have room to spread out and show what makes your club special. Within that, you can also have an experience for the more functional aspect of organizing your club meetings, getting people to come in and sign up for a role or sign up to speak. And you notice when I sign up, it immediately asks me, would you like to sign up for a role at the next meeting? So think of that as kind of the, would you like fries for that moment in WordPress for Toastmasters. Oops, let's go to the next slide. So WordPress is software that was invented by bloggers, but it's come to be used very broadly. If you go to the website of the New Yorker or Time Magazine or Forbes, a number of other professional publications, they're highly modified and customized WordPress sites. A lot of corporate websites too, particularly things like the PR section or the investor relations section, maybe based on WordPress. So just like they can take it and customize it and add design elements, so can I. And what I've done over a number of years is add a couple of plugins that add that functionality for meeting role signups. RSVP Maker is actually a general purpose event scheduling and registration plugin. You used it when you registered for this session and got the email response. That was all RSVP Maker. And then there's a set of extensions for handling the agenda. Also, in terms of branding, I had to do some work with Toastmasters International to come up with a WordPress theme that we could distribute through WordPress.org, but that would meet their branding guidelines. So there are some standard web banners that they released a number of years ago that we've been using. There's some variations within that where you can change the background colors of your page. You can switch between different banners. But we're doing it in a way where Toastmasters International isn't going to come after us and say you're misusing the brand. I have also done some work on making sure that it is a responsive theme, meaning that if you view it from a mobile device, it should resize to fit within the frame of that mobile device pretty well. And the functional aspects in terms of things like meeting role sign up, it's a little bit more awkward on a mobile device, but I've done it to sign people up for roles and speeches that way as well. The WP number for Toastmasters.com website is where I document the whole approach. And originally, I had released open source software and said anybody who runs a WordPress-powered website can come in and get it. To make it accessible to more people who weren't necessarily techies or technically confident enough to do that, we've created a version that is hosted. So if you've heard the term software as a service, this was sort of my software as a service venture where you could come in, sign up for an account, and create a website. So it's a quicker way to get started. And even if you eventually move or graduate to having your own website, it can be a good way to get started with the software or testing the software. And there's a demo site that I'll show you in a few minutes where you can kind of play around with the software as well. Just for background, I am not a professional programmer. I am somebody who has written about the rise of the web going back to when Netscape Navigator first appeared and made it accessible to a lot more people. I've done magazine cover stories and ran a section of Internet World that was focused on the web and social media, and particularly collaboration technologies, and wrote a book about collaboration technologies, got some speaking gigs out of that. So I'm somebody who's always been interested in how organizations build compelling digital experiences. And to some extent, this has been me experimenting and getting hands-on experience with how to do it myself. But I think I've also, along the way, created something that is valuable for Toastmasters use. And I don't have to go through all of this, but I've been in Toastmasters since 2010. When I got drafted to be a VP of Education, I fairly quickly got frustrated by the limits of Free Toast because I wanted to be able to promote special events, promote things that were special about our club, and just adding a page on Free Toast I found to be fairly cumbersome. Whereas we could have a whole blog built into our website by building on top of WordPress. So it's open source software. I used it when I was starting up the online presenters Toastmasters Club that Nick is a part of. And as of now, there are 50-something sites live on this free hosting platform. And there are a number of other independent websites as well that are using the software. I do not get any financial or logistical support from Toastmasters International. So we have had a few folks sponsor over the years. And so currently there's a Your Ad Here slot where I'm trying to get somebody else to come in and sponsor and help cover some of the costs that this does incur. And so I'm looking for help, not just financial help, also people to help with marketing, to be evangelists for the platform, to contribute to documentation and training, and potentially also design and programming. It is open source, so other people can contribute to it as well, not just me. So here's part of the point, is, again, Free Toast Host, which is the default platform that everybody gets steered towards by Toastmasters International, and they do provide some financial support to that. As I understand it, that was originally a volunteer project as well. But it's pretty good for setting up a simple web page. It doesn't really help you create a website that can kind of spread out. So this gives you more room to grow. So whenever somebody wins a contest, we would post a blog post about that contest winner, probably with a video embedded in that blog post. And I'm going to show you how it's quite easy to add, say, a YouTube video and embed it in a blog post. And whenever we create a blog post like that, one of the first things we would do is cross-post it on social media. So you want these things to all sort of play together to help promote your club. So when I post a link to that site, Facebook generates a preview. It'll try and grab a photo off the page. So I want to have a good photo on that blog post. So I get a little preview post. I get to add some commentary on it. And then typically underneath, I'll come in and add a second comment that says, if you're free on Friday mornings, we'd love to see you in person at Club Awesome. I'll add a link. And then we worked on making sure that the preview that you get in that comment is also effective. Recently, I've been doing a bunch of experiments with Facebook Live. So it's certainly not anything that's dependent on WordPress, but if you're looking for ways of promoting your club online, I'm very impressed with this fellow who got nearly 700 views as of a few weeks ago. It's probably over that now, for an impromptu Facebook Live broadcast of himself giving a speech. I think I don't know if they broadcast the entire meeting or just a segment of it. And what you can see in the comments is somebody is commenting with a lot of questions about the program. How long does it take to get to do your icebreaker? And the gold mine here is at the end they say, "I'm very interested." So that's a live one. That's somebody who you would hope to get in the doors of your meeting. And even if you don't get them to your meeting, they're interested in Toastmasters, and we're helping to promote the overall concept of why Toastmasters is worthwhile. We do video recording routinely at my home club. And again, one of the reasons we do that is that it's easy to embed into WordPress. We publish those videos on YouTube, but the way we've gotten people comfortable with it was we say we'll put it up as in this status called unlisted. That means that if you don't have the link, you're basically not going to find that video. Nobody's going to find it in search or by just browsing the YouTube site, but the speakers can come and see their own performance. They can see their body language that they were critiqued on. They can listen to their ums and ahs. And then if they've done something that they're impressive and proud of, we can encourage them to allow us to share it on the website and use it for publicity purposes. And I like to show this because this is me using an old smartphone. So we routinely will record the meetings. This smartphone doesn't have a cell plan anymore, but it connects with the Wi-Fi at our location. I can start the videos uploading. And usually I don't take time to type in the speaker's name. I'll go back through the web interface to YouTube and add those details later. And then we have a process also for sending out that batch of each week's speeches by email. So here's a glimpse at what that looks like. And at the end of the boilerplate template for this message, there's a little disclaimer that says our policy is these are shared privately, so they're just for use within the club. Don't forward or share this outside the club unless you get the speaker's permission. So that's worked out pretty well for us. So I'm going to get out of presentation mode. And I'd like to introduce a few guests that I have here. I expect other people will mix into the conversation. But I was delighted that I got Sue Ness to participate in this. Hey, Sue. Sue was a co-conspirator of mine on getting this started. So we were area governors at a point where I had developed some of what I'm showing you as a one-off hack for my own home club. And what happened is one of our officers started going out and bragging about it to other people and saying, you should have David do this for you too. At the time, I didn't have any way of sharing it with anybody outside of the group. So eventually I started down this path of releasing the software and hosting the Toastmasters site. And Sue had come up with a whole system where she was tracking her all the metrics of her club, how many speeches everybody had given, how many other roles they'd filled. She was doing it in a set of spreadsheets, or was it an Access database? I don't quite remember. But anyway, she showed me what she'd done, and my thought was that if you're gathering this information along the way as you generate your agenda, and you can have it flow through into a series of reports, that would be a lot more efficient. And so there are some reporting features on the website that I can show you a little bit later. They probably actually could use some updating, some refinement, but that's part of where I need everybody's feedback. So Sue, why don't you introduce yourself and give us a little bit of context on where you are in Toastmasters and why this has been relevant to your club.
Thank you, David. I've been with Toastmasters since 2012, and like you, I was drafted in as Vice President of Education. First thing you're going to do is this. And I recognized immediately that I would need some way of tracking all this stuff. And the website, the Free Toast website, at that time, I couldn't even understand what these reports were for. And so I had created this Access database that I entered everything into, and then all these other reports came from the data.
And you said you tried Easy Speak at some point too, right?
Yeah, I tried that, and I thought it was very complicated to set up. So we went with the other website that was real easy to set up, but it didn't have much in the way of reporting. So I had created this Access database, which was rather elaborate, but it was giving me the reports that I wanted. And when I heard that David was putting together this software, I was so excited because it was in its development phase. Lots of things could be suggested, and that's where we kind of connected on that. And I'm so happy you did. I'm happy with your WordPress for Toastmasters. Very much so.
Okay, very cool.
And we use it at our corporate club where I work. It's the same club that I was drafted into all those years ago.
And you said you don't really use it as a marketing for the club so much as the administration. But do you publish information?
Yes, we do. Well? We publish information on our What's New page.
Okay. All right, Nick.
Hi, David. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, come out.
Okay. So, my experience, I've been in Toastmasters since 2016. And I love software. My background is actually software and marketing and selling software and solutions around it. And I like the software that we have around the Toastmaster meetings. When I first joined, I think 6 months into my time with Toastmasters, I became VPE, and same as Sue and yourself, and just got thrown into this is the way we do it. And I'm always looking for not only let me learn how you do it, and then I'm going to make it better. That's it. And so I'm always looking for something interesting, something better, some sort of leverage so that we can actually give more value. And we have to, what I always do is, my approach is always look at the stakeholders. And the stakeholders aren't the members, neither the committee members on your executive team. The stakeholders, the most important stakeholders, are the potential members who come and visit your site. Mm-hmm. Because as an organization, that, for example, an online club here, like for example, online presenters, which we are members, the people that we want to target, the people we want to look for first, is the potential members, and how easy is it for them to understand and getting the right information in the right manner, and then come and visit the meeting. Because if you can do that, then you can actually have a steady stream of potential customers to your club or members. Because you've got to keep that blood flowing. Mm-hmm. Then you look at the VPE and to an extent the VPN, the VPPR, to look at how the system works for them in their roles.
Right.
So in my experience, I started off with Easy Speak. I quite like it actually, in terms of what it does. But our club only uses it, the usual 15, 20% of its capability.
Right.
We don't update pages regularly. We only use it as an agenda software, and also keeping track of achievements and the education achievements, and just member list.
Right.
In terms of what my experience has been with online presenters and other clubs that I've been with, and with the RSVP maker, the software, I really liked it because although it's not, I've got to be honest, it's not the finished article today, right? It's still under development. Still, there's a lot of work going on to it. You can understand. But what I really liked about it is the idea that it's actually solving a lot of problems for a lot of people. And if it solves more problems for you today, then that's the, whichever software you have, that's the one to choose.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. And by the way, just for context, I didn't know Easy Speak existed. I started down this path. So maybe who knows whether I would have made different decisions. But I guess my impression is that it's more, I almost think of it as more of a bookkeeping software for Toastmasters Club. It doesn't have so much of the marketing personality. And so, it's probably better at all the record keeping.
It actually does. It actually is good, because just like anything, nobody ever uses more than 20% of the software, like in any piece of software. And so, for example, in our club, at my bricks and mortar club, we don't actually go and update anything apart from the agenda. I mean, literally, but there's a whole homepage that you can do. But it doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter where you do it. You've got to make sure you put it in front of the right people. And for me, the good thing about your software is that it's the future. It's got better technology, better platform, and you can do more with it. You can just set up a page about whatever you want, and then on your home page, you can actually have a link to actually send people onto your page easily, very easily. And that's the thing that Easy Speak doesn't have.
All right. Well, I can ask Kip to introduce himself, and then I thought I would do like some basic demo stuff, but all this can be led by the folks who are here. So if there's something that you particularly want to see or don't understand, but I'm pretty sure that there, or at least actually raise your hand or something if I guess raise your hand is the easiest thing if you're just checking this out and you've never used this the WordPress for Toastmasters software at all. Okay. Well, Kip, I thought you had set up a test site or something, or
I have not. I mean, I'm a WordPress user.
Okay.
And I consider myself kind of like a borderline intermediate. I do it enough that I know what I want to do. I know it can do it, but I can't remember exactly how to do it when I go to redo it on another site.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if you've found yourself in that place before, but that's
yeah, a little bit. And I think one of the trade-offs that people probably run into is that Free Toast is maybe simpler on one dimension, is that it is set up with the express purpose of this is how you create the club webpage, and so it's a template that's all built around that. With WordPress, you have lots, particularly if you're the administrator, you're going to see lots of different menus leading you off in different directions, and you can install plugins, and depending on what plugins you have installed, it might behave significantly differently, and so there's some complexity there. But let me let you talk for a few more minutes.
Yeah, no,
at least tell us why you're intrigued.
Well, it's a great segue because see, I've worked for, I'm just going to diplomatically say 20 plus years in high tech. And in fact, David, I think earlier on in my career, I had some meetings with you when you were at Ziff Davis.
Oh, okay.
I was way back in some stuff. And but anyhow, I saw your name, and that was what intrigued me. I'd never made the connection. I actually started looking at it a couple of years ago, but really my challenge was that I can't find the will in any of the clubs that I'm in to stick with an effort of maintaining a website and having that knowledge transfer from successor to successor. And, you know, so I've been at this for about 5 years. And so, and I tend to be the one that gets tasked with figuring this stuff out because I'm a marketer by profession. And I was a very involved software and hardware product manager earlier on in my career. And I don't mean to be pejorative of the other solutions that are out there, but they made my skin crawl. Just from a user experience standpoint, they're horrible. And I think the problem is that they scorch the earth with people that have used them. They determine that, well, if that's what it's all about, you know, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to attempt to engage there because they get lost in the sauce of that configuration stuff. And so WordPress, I think, solves a lot of that.
We were emailing about this in advance, and you know, one of my arguments is that if you learn WordPress, you've learned a transferable skill that you can apply to your small business or maybe your big business. And also, even if you use one of the commercial products like HubSpot, it's kind of the same principles, at least for how content is organized.
Right.
It's not zero effort to learn WordPress, but you know, there is a ton of information. The extensions that I have may not be documented as well as they should be, which is part of why I'm doing this session, and so I can maybe pull out little video clips to include in a tutorial. But there's lots of information certainly about how to use and set up and work with WordPress.
Well, I was just typing a note there because you've made a point that, you know, shame on me, I've not thought about before, and that is that this is a transferable skill, and if Toastmasters really about skill building, and right. You know, I believe if you drink the WordPress Kool-Aid, that 3/5 of all websites in the world run on WordPress. You know, and so in terms of the value of that skill, I think that's a pretty big deal. But you know, as you said, we traded some questions, and really the one that kind of loomed for me was, you know, it's interesting to hear how people joined, and I believe, I'm sorry, I can't see your full name. You're in my upper right. You're the only woman in the group.
That's Sue.
Sue, sorry, Sue. You know, you used language that I hear very frequently, and that is that people, they tend to they jump into Toastmasters trying to do something, and then they get conscripted into leadership. You know, we're almost militarized because there's so much of this, there's so much need for the sharing of the lifting to make a club good, and that really, David, is what drove my interest, because I think I talked to you, you know, in the questions that we traded, the thing that I really feel that Toastmasters organizationally hasn't done a good job of doing, and this is where I think a little bit of marketing would help, is that we focus on building what we call quality clubs. And that means nothing to someone who is on the street trying to figure out, I've got to give a presentation. My boss said I'm terrible and said I needed to go to Toastmasters. I think it's all about creating value. And so that to me is where I see the opportunity to use W4T. And I have a little sample of something that I did, because you know I'm always trying to do creative things to draw attention, and I think one of the things that I've seen in the, you know, in the district that I'm in District 50, and so it's a western states, it's Idaho, Utah, portions of Nevada, but they tend to use Facebook. They've landed on Facebook groups as the way to communicate, and really you can drive awareness with that, but that's about it. You can't operate the club with it. But you mentioned one of your videos got 700 views, right? One of the speeches.
Well, it wasn't mine. It was another club that did a Facebook Live that was quite effective.
Okay, if you'd indulge me, I shot a video. I shot a time-lapse video of a club meeting, and I posted it on the Toastmasters International page, and we got 4,000 views.
Ooh.
You know, and so as a marketing guy, I'm like, oh, we got eyeballs. This is good. We have eyeballs. But we really didn't have the means to convert on that. Right. Is it possible, David, that I share my screen? I don't need to show you the video.
Go ahead. Just metrics. I do want to get to, we're already a half hour in, so.
Okay, well.
No, go ahead, but just keep it efficient.
All right, let's see if I can do, let's see, share, bear with me. Main screen and share. Are you seeing that?
Yes.
All right, so the video was 1 minute and 6 seconds long, and really the premise of it was, you know, people always, they don't know what a Toastmasters meeting looks like. So it was a whole meeting done in 1 minute. Mm-hmm. And our call to action at the end of it, let me just sweep to that. I think, okay, so the idea was to get them over.
Okay. Yeah, the thing I've tried a few times, I mentioned Facebook Live, is we've done basically the first portion of our meeting as a Facebook Live session.
What an excellent idea.
It was, people came up, in fact, we kind of compressed our usual agenda to try and keep it, you know, kind of on TV time, not too much downtime. We invited people up to the room to introduce themselves, say why they're in the club. We did table topics, we did a humorist, and we did one featured speech. And then by the time that was done, I was pretty exhausted, and we took a 5-minute break, you know, stop the broadcast. So we shared that. We did get several hundred views on it. One of the things that I find is sometimes if you push and you put out a lot of activity, sometimes you don't get immediate results, but a few months later, you'll get this trickle of people who show up at your meeting, and, you know, they're not quite sure where, but they've been hearing about this club. So it's a matter of trying to create some kind of buzz. But let me, so I've got Jim Barber here who's supposed to be tracking the chat. So Jim, let me know if something important is going on over there that I need to know about. But I wanted to do
several people have been chatting about how difficult it is to find volunteers to maintain a club's technology, primarily their website. Right. And that, you know, if you do and they leave, how do you get that experience and expertise transferred to somebody else?
Right. I guess I would say, well, one thing is I need to maybe make a little bit more of a campaign out of this is making sure that people know that they should have more than one administrator, because you often have a situation where the person who was real active one year leaves town, stops answering emails, whatever. And so you do want to have some way of unlocking that site and continuing to control it. And yeah, it helps to get more than one person trained up. And I'm not sure that I've necessarily always done a perfect job of that either, because, you know, I tend to do everything because I know how it works, and I should be offloading more onto other people. I wanted to just briefly show, this is what our old Free Toast hosts site looked. This is, I guess, before they upgraded it. And actually, I liked this version of the software better than when they improved it. Our Free Toast host site looks like this right now, what's left of it. And we just changed the title to old website and says we've moved with a link to the new domain. And I don't know whether there's any formal way about how you're supposed to shut down one of those sites either, but that's the way we dealt with it. And one of the reasons I moved is this is really set up with this tabbed interface. I guess you can add an additional page, but none of these has like a unique page for it. A lot of it is very generic material about Toastmasters. This is an early version of the Club Awesome WordPress-based website. One of the things we were trying to promote is the fact that we were meeting at a new location, actually kind of a weird location, which is an ice skating rink. So this is the president of our club out on the ice behind the lectern with a Zamboni driving by in the background.
Oh my gosh.
Actually, it's a Cadillac, but it was just like, it's weird. We just got to go with it. It was a location in town that opened up early in the morning, so we could get in there and set up for a meeting. But the other, and this is using something called the Wayback Machine, where you can see what websites used to look like. Also, we had a video guide for a Toastmasters meeting, and I think that's still part of our site. It's maybe a little bit less prominent, but it was similar to what Kip said, it was a page where you could go through, you could see an example of a speech, you could see an example of table topics, you could see an example of an evaluation. So trying to explain how a meeting is structured. This is said a little bit later. Here's a version where we're celebrating the fact that we swept some awards one particular year. And this is a version I liked a lot. This is actually, if you upload a series of photos into Google Photos, they will create an animation for you, whether you want one or not, but you can download this. And so, it's kind of fun. I like the guy jumping up in the background. And it's just I think too many sites actually start off with just the picture of smiling people holding plaques or getting ribbons or something. And some of that stuff is good, but you want informational material too. Looks like the video is not displaying in this archived version. And this is our current website. So a picture up top. It actually shows me up front with the tripod recording somebody's speech. We have a testimonial video a little bit farther down. And one of the things I wanted to show too is, so I'm logged in here, and I'm logged in as an administrator. So if I want to create a new blog post, I can just go to New Post. And I have one kind of staged here with a little bit of text added. And I wanted to show you how you add video. You copy the address, you paste it in here, and WordPress automatically adds the video player. And I believe if you were trying to do that on FreeToast, you would have to go into HTML editing mode, and you'd have to get a snippet of HTML from YouTube. A little bit more involved. So I'm actually going to publish that.
That's correct. You would have to do HTML.
Okay, that's last time I looked. So we can see we now have a video with a brief post, and we might want to have a little bit more text than that. If you think in terms of search engine optimization, rule of thumb I've been told is you want maybe 400, 600 words on the page for Google to come in and index for them to rank it well. And I might also want to add a still image to the page to make the preview to Facebook and other sites good. And you'll notice that we have the little buttons down the bottom to share to Facebook, share to Twitter, share to LinkedIn. And so that's using one of the WordPress plugins for social media marketing. So let me switch over here. Again, this is the Toastmasters site. So if you are interested, and Kip, if you haven't done this, again, even if you want to, you eventually would want to host your own site, you could come in here, register, put in the name of your club. These are all subdomain websites. So they are part of Toastmasters.org. There's a version of WordPress called WordPress Multisite that allows you to, but they operate as independent websites. So if we go over to op.toastmasters.org, that is the online presenters Toastmasters site. Within that, we can have a blog, we can have all our meeting notices. And again, we can, this is a workshop I did a little while ago about video editing for speakers and presenters. So this gives me something that I can promote out on Facebook. I can build the reputation of my website and of the club by doing that, and I can bring new people in. And this is, because this was an online club, all the marketing and recruiting really had to be online. There are a few people that I know locally who joined, but we also got people from Australia and New Zealand who tune in as a lunch break while we're meeting in the evening. There is a demo site, and on the homepage of the demo site is a password you can use to sign in to get an idea of the regular member experience. But if I want to sign up to do a role, that's the process. If I decide that actually I can't show up that day, I can remove myself. And then as the meeting organizer, if you're either the VPE or you're the Toastmaster of the day and you're expected to help organize the meeting, you can go into this editing mode. And here we're not editing the actual structure of the site, but we're editing who's signed up for roles. So I can make Abraham Lincoln the Toastmaster of the day. And I like Clara Oswald to be the timer. It's a Doctor Who joke for those who care. And there is also something where I can tweak the timing. Let's go down to speakers. So maybe we have a meeting where somebody's going to give a long speech. So we want to change it from 3 speeches to 2. And maybe we alter the amount of time that we're going to allow on the agenda. We can do that from here. And that will be altered. And actually for speakers, it's set up so that if you change the number of speakers, you also change the number of evaluators by default. So, these are sort of convenience functions that have been built in over time, and they're really based on, experience with how we manage our meetings. Now, one of the things that I've learned over time is that clubs, even though we follow the same program, they operate significantly differently. And so clubs, some of them will operate more on the level of assigning people to roles rather than asking for volunteers. The clubs that I'm part of typically ask for volunteers. There is this mode where we can suggest assignments. And there's a little warning here because I've seen people get in trouble with this feature. But what this does is it goes through your member list and it picks out people who don't have a role for this meeting, and it will assign them a role. Right now it shows that these are unconfirmed, so if I go down to the bottom and click submit, then I would assign all these people to these roles. And I can go in and go through and change the choices along the way to assign somebody else instead.
David, can I just jump in there for a minute?
Yeah.
When I first joined OP, Online Presenters, what I found was that particular functionality, the idea of suggested roles, it really helped me to, as an experienced Toastmaster, when you join a new club, you're still a little bit hesitant and a little bit, you don't know the ropes, and it was my first online club. And about those suggested ideas, what it does, I think the background is that it looks at the roles you've done recently and you've not done for a while. But what it did was it helped me then create a path. And what I did was I signed, 8 straight meetings, the different roles that I wanted, and it helped me set the journey. It was easy to use.
Yeah, there's something
as a
similar
brand
where
new
you
user.
do this for yourself. There's this meeting role planner where you can sort of see the upcoming meetings
That's
where you haven't
right.
signed
That's
up
exactly
for.
what I used. Yeah, absolutely. And the really good thing about that, we often think about, oh, what about the new members? Well, for me, this is really good because it sort of suggests, well, do you want to do vote counter today? Do you want to do evaluate? Well, I'm not sure about that. Well, click on the drop-down list, and instead of evaluate, let me be a watch or body language monitor or whatever it is. So that way, but to just suggest something and get to it is really key.
Right.
Key users, I think.
And so I may be overwhelming people by throwing out too many things at once, but let me just show you. There's one other variation on this, because this is sort of a compromise where I'm saying I'd like to take advantage of those random assignments, but I don't want to be too bossy about it. So I can go into this suggestion mode, and let's see. I can say, James, you haven't done this lately. And in this mode, what would happen is James Polk would get an email message saying that David Carr has recommended that you be Toastmaster of the day. And he has to click to confirm that before it's locked in on the agenda. So it's a way of suggesting. And even in the basic editing mode, there is some information that you'll see about when somebody last filled a particular role. We'll see. I don't think it's going to apply to that one, but let's see. So if I want to see who hasn't spoken in a long while, I can see that some of these people haven't spoken since 2018, or it's blank entirely. So again, we can maybe assign Martin. You could also potentially do this sitting next to the person, saying, here's what I think you would do, or are you comfortable with that? So these are things that are built in to try and make it easier for you to organize your meetings. We should actually probably take a break, since I've been talking. We haven't given much opportunity for other people who joined to ask their questions. So Alistair, for example, you said you're just investigating this. Brian Todd has a list of questions. All right, but I'll pick on Alistair first.
Yeah, thanks, David. So just to set the scene, I started Toastmasters back in October. I've recently, or last week, was voted in for the VPE position. But one of the things that we're only a very small club, but one of the things I wanted to do is to try and get my head round, and I haven't had any training on Easy Speak yet, but how it ran, whether it ran parallel or whether obviously it runs as the main platform. What I do like the idea of is the one-stop shop with WordPress. And obviously now as I'm starting or will be taking the post to try and get a better understanding of how it will serve me. I know that Nick mentioned something with regards to Easy Speak, that it doesn't do everything, and I didn't quite catch what he was sort of covering off there. But yeah, I would like our club to be able to promote social media a lot better in order to be able to entice more members to our club. So if WordPress can do that, then it's something certainly that I would like to go back to our president and recommend as a serious option.
Well, again, in terms of setting up, you might want to go ahead and set up a test site on toastmasters.org. And when you set up one of those sites, initially it is not published to the world. So there's a checkbox that you have to check to say, I'm ready to let Google index this.
Sure.
Until that happens, nobody's going to find your website, most likely. You know, most of us have to work pretty hard to get Google to find our website or to find it better. If you're telling them, no, never mind, go away, they're not going to list you. So at that point, you can set up something, you can play around with it, and invite in a couple of other officers to kick the tires. And then if you decide that it makes sense for you to go forward. And, you know, I mean, I sympathize with, if you've been doing it one way for years, you know, shutting down one website and moving to another is a more difficult decision than if you were starting from scratch. So, I mean, I would love to make more people who are starting new clubs aware of this software so that they could start off with it from the beginning if that's the path they're going to go down. But at any rate, did you have a specific question for Nick, though? Or Nick, did you have anything more you wanted to add? Or?
I mean, just Nick, what you know, from the Easy Speak point of view, I mean, what did you see the advantages of with WordPress with regards to WordPress v Easy Speak, so that I understand that?
Okay, basically it's WordPress. Easy Speak. The way we use it at the moment in my bricks and mortar club is basically taking a register and keeping notes. Okay, that's basically what we do. And what that does is, and that's fine, if that's all we want to do, that's fine. However, I'm a great believer in pushing ourselves and actually sort of pushing the software to the benefit of the members and the guests. So, for example, a lot of the things aren't being used at all, but also the advantage that I can see. I have to be honest, I've not talked to David before today about this. I'm not sort of a proponent as such. I'm not, you know, if you ask me about the two options, I would just stick with Easy Speak if you just want a quiet life and you don't want to do anything else. However, the benefits that you can have by using the Toastmasters is that you have got, within a few minutes, you look at how that video was put onto a web page, and then you can add a few notes, and then boom, you've got the ability to go and hit the cloud and then see where your content takes you. Now, there's no, you know, just because you publish a page doesn't mean it's going to be successful, but it enables you to have the chance to put on engaging information and videos and other sort of events and so on, and let it be published out there, used on the site, and that is easily shareable. And I believe that it has a lot of other benefits in there under the hood. I mean, you know, David's not even talked about, for example, the ability to help each other in terms of evaluations, in terms of the internal system whereby you can actually send an evaluation, not through email, but through the system. There's all sorts of different things under the hood that just we won't get time to talk about today. But the basic thing is, this is a much more powerful and more robust tool that you can harness. But that's the point, isn't it? You need to harness a tool. Somebody in the club has to go and do it. And I'm a great believer in, if there's one of you, share it, see what people think, and then go with it. But whatever you do, you've got to maximize what you do for it, because at the end of the day, you need to go and get new members. How are you going to achieve that?
I love David's suggestion about starting it off and obviously being able to just look at it, develop it, and start to, and then as you said, is to bring in a couple of the committee members to kick the tires and see what their thoughts are. But for me to familiarize myself with it, I love these sorts of things anyway. It is what I do in my day-to-day job, and that's why my ears pricked up when I saw this on social media myself. So I think that's exactly what I'll do. I'll set something up with the WordPress, have a little look, get familiar with it. In the interim, I'll obviously have some training on Easy Speak as our platform at the moment. From what I understand, 90% of the District 91, use Easy Speak. However, that doesn't necessarily mean it's right, does it? So, you know.
So let's ask for some more questions. I know Brian had some, but I think he may have stepped away. Brian, are you there? All right. Well, Tamara, Rory, or Fran, any questions?
Yeah. So one comment. Hello, District 91. I'm also in District 91. So
hi, Rory.
I find Easy Speak is a bit clunky, but it does generally do well for meeting management. But for web presence, it is terrible.
Right.
It's not at all you want. And in fact, I'm going to spend 1 minute introducing myself because I think there's some collaboration here that's really useful. I actually built a tool called Toast, which put up effectively single-page websites for clubs, very similar to what Toastmasters does.
Okay.
Specifically targeted at new clubs to get them a sensible-looking web presence with a few clicks. So you enter the information on a form, and it hosts the website and does all the same stuff that Toastmasters does. But it wasn't designed to be anywhere near as detailed. And I was looking at ways of expanding it to do what you're doing. But actually what we're now doing is actually trying to address some of the other gaps, things like electronic guest books and things like that to do automation. So I think there's potentially some interesting collaboration to go on after this meeting.
Great.
Yep. So I don't really have a question. I have
okay.
a million questions and none at all. In the
yeah. Well, basically, I'm cheating because I get to take advantage of all the software I don't have to write because people from around the world.
Yeah. But we're trying to effectively. I was coming at it cold to trying to solve the same problem, which is web visibility for clubs is just. The problem we found is you might have one person knows how to do WordPress and set up a decent looking website.
Right.
Or you find someone that knows a little bit of WordPress and can't get a decent looking website.
Yeah.
Or people pay a lot of money to set up a decent looking website.
Yep.
And actually just templated stuff is the way to go. You know, you can get a very sensible looking website with very low energy.
Right.
And
well, I guess I'm more trying to appeal to the people who want to put some energy into it. I'm trying to say if you're ambitious about what you want to do with your website, this is.
I want people to put energy into content. I don't want lots of people trying to work out how to set up a WordPress site from cold and get new hosting and all the rest of that stuff.
Right. Well, let me let Brian. Brian, you want to get a couple of questions in?
You kind of made a point there that I have. One of my questions there was how easy is it to export the list of members? I'm the treasurer of many of my clubs, 3 clubs, and what I do is I go to TI's website and I pull down their spreadsheet, and then I import that. I shuffle it around and then import it into my accounting software. But it would be much better if you could actually go to the accounting or the list of the members and pull that information over, because you don't need all the information. You basically need the name, address, and maybe their club.
Okay. Well, so actually, I do have that. You can go to the Toastmasters site. If you go into Club Central, you download your meeting roster as a spreadsheet. You can copy and paste into an admin screen in WordPress for Toastmasters, and if it doesn't recognize the people, it will give you the opportunity to create new accounts. If you already have a record for somebody who has that Toastmasters member ID, it will update the record if necessary. And so you can create accounts for all your members and invite them in to set a password and get started in a few seconds. And I've demoed that on other occasions. There's a video.
And like FreeToast hosts now, like when they're opting in, I mean, that's controlled by the new privacy laws in Europe. Mm-hmm. Because I've talked to the attorney at Toastmasters International about that, and so that's covering that, because that was another question: is how do you make sure that you're in compliance with all these privacy laws?
Right. And WordPress has added some features for making it easier for you to, construct a privacy policy. The Toastmasters sites all have a default privacy policy, and it also talks about if you use RSVP Maker to register people for events, what information it collects on them and when it uses cookies. So in fact, you should have seen it if you registered for this event for the RSVP form.
Yeah.
There was a checkbox saying I agree with the privacy policy of this site. So,
okay. Yeah.
I haven't gotten the $10 million fine yet from GDPR people.
And can I ask a second question?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things I do with FreeToast is I have PayPal there. I have an application form that people can come in, and they don't even have to be a member, and they can come in and join the club, submit an application, and then it takes them onto a PayPal payment, and they can pay through their credit card, bank card, or whatever it is.
Well, we do all online membership payments for online presenters because that's the only way it works.
Yeah.
I have actually done more lately with a payment platform called Stripe.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
But it works quite well. You can set up your dues schedule for new members. You have planned out that the amount will be different in January and February than it is in April. But the prorated fees. So you plug in that information, and it will display the correct amount when it asks them to pay. So,
I've been I think I go back to using PayPal on FreeToast host to 2000 or something. No, 2008.
Okay. But maybe that's something we could talk about more offline. But yes, there is a way to do it. Again, I recognize that I have an issue in terms of documentation should be better. So I should probably stop coding new software and document a few things better. But the capability is there, and I'm pretty available if you need to ask me questions about how to do stuff.
Can I just interject something there, please, David?
Sure.
Brian and I belong to a particular advanced club that uses FreeToast host, and yes, with this software, the WordPress for Toastmasters software, it's very easy. When I joined Online Presenters, it was a matter of, I think, probably 3 or 4 hours from me paying my money and submitting my online form to me getting the emails from Toastmasters International and a welcome email from Online Presenters. It's literally a couple of hours, I believe it was. Very easy, somebody, David or somebody else, had actually gone and processed it very quickly. However, the disadvantage of the FreeToast host is, again, it's the way I look at it is, how do your visitors find it? And, you know, the problem with pre-toast host is you can't look at the agenda unless you've shared it. But you can't, you know, it's like going to a restaurant, looking at the menu in the window, but you can't look at, you know, even if it's shut, you can't even look at the menu on it. You don't know what's on offer. So, but with, you know, tools like WordPress for Toastmasters, it's all there, and it's very easy. And that's what you've got to make it for your visitors. At the end of the day, the visitors are the lifeblood, not the members. Visitors that you can bring in and then convert. That's you know, you've got to really focus on that first.
Okay. So we're an hour into this. I can stay on for a little bit longer. You know, people want to duck out, you're certainly welcome to, including my panelists, if you've got other things to do on a Saturday
I think
night.
you're talking about some really compelling stuff here, David, and I'm really intrigued by this because I made a comment. I think, you know, there's such a hodgepodge of tools that clubs try to use even before they get to these other alternative sites. You know, these Meetup and Recruit and blah, blah, blah.
I'd run across quite a few clubs who, you know, they were using pre-toast host because that was the default, but then they had Google Sheets, they had, you know, all sorts of other things that they had set up as little workarounds. And by the way, you know, part of my bias too is I would rather have it all in one website, both the administrative aspect and the marketing aspect. And one reason is if you're bringing people to the site to sign up for roles, then hopefully they know what the web address is, and they can tell somebody that they met at a party what the web address is. So it's a little bit more unified experience. And remember, we're also tacking on this other digital experience with Basecamp. So now you're talking about having potentially 3 or 4 digital experiences that you're asking people to learn. If I can keep it down to maybe 2, and that's the best, you know, the simplest I can make it, I think that's a little bit better. Did anybody else have questions who didn't get a chance to ask something? Welcome, Joy, by the way.
When's the next meeting so we can ask you more questions?
Well, again, I can stay on. I know you held up your whole page of stuff, and I don't know, Brian. You've actually heard my spiel for this several times. I guess I haven't convinced you yet. But is there some particular opportunity that you're looking at, or a new club or something where you might try this?
Oh, my Royal Roads Club, we've gone through them all and it's not working. So, you know, we decided, okay, now we're going to try WordPress, WordPress for Toastmasters. And you know, so I'm ready to switch over and we're going to do that. Okay. And I delegated it to somebody to set that up, Kanan, you know Kanan. Okay.
Yeah.
From your club. And he's going to set that up for our club, and then I can populate the information. That's why I'm here, is because I want to be able to populate that information from the information I've already got without having to reinvent the wheel.
Well, how about I'll ask one more time if anybody who hasn't yet asked a question has a question they want to ask.
Yes,
Tamara has a question.
You want to ask a bunch more.
Been trying to ask for a while. So I was wanting to ask about the Toastmasters and the independent, like, I guess, is there one reason you would use one versus the other?
Yeah, I guess the main reason you would use Toastmasters is because you're getting started for free. And it is, and I might have to assist you a little bit with it. It is possible to start up and run your club on Toastmasters and then transfer the data over to an independent site. So there are a couple of things. One is you have more freedom over the design and the choices of what plugins to install operating on an independent site. You also can have it. Well, let me just show and tell again for a second. You also can have it at its own domain. And so clubawesome.org is its own website because it's got started independently before any of this other stuff existed. And when I was starting the process of bringing online presenters to Charter, we started on Toastmost partly so I would get a taste of the same experience everybody else using that platform was using, and how it was different and how it needed to be adjusted. So there's a branding advantage in having your own domain. There may also be a search engine optimization advantage, but I think it's fairly minor, actually. As long as you, so again, it's still, like the online presenter site is still an independent website, even though it's within the toastmost.org domain, and it's still going to be tracked by Google if we have good content there to bring people in. A lot of people are going to come to your website by following a link from either search or social versus actually typing in your web address. And so as long as you have good content, I think it is pretty close to as good of an experience. Having your own domain is a little bit better if you want to print that on a t-shirt or on a flyer or something. And so, telling somebody at a party, come to clubawesome.org versus telling them to go to OP. So it's not www, it's op.toastmost.org. So that's a little bit clumsier. Not a huge, actually usually what I would tell them is if you enter online presenters, Toastmasters, and the word Toastmasters into Google, you will find our site. And I'm pretty confident that's true. So those are some of the trade-offs. I could show you briefly another site. So there are a couple of...
While you're setting it up, I just typed in Toastmost, all one word, into the URL line on my Firefox, and it popped up with all that detail. So that's all you have to tell them, Google Toastmost, and it will show up.
So here, some of the independent websites are actually listed on the toastmost.org space, or front homepage. So this is one that uses the software because we can see it down here. There are these meeting sign-up links, but they're not using my theme, and some of the others have chosen to use their own design. And the trade-off with that is if you use the Toastmasters logo at all, you could get some static from Toastmasters International. But they don't even have the Toastmasters logo on their homepage, whether that's good or bad. You decide. But they're just trying to brand themselves their own way. So they have the freedom to do that because I don't want any more trouble than I need to get into with Toastmasters International. I only allow the my theme to be used on the Toastmost sites. But here's an example of another site that is hosted independently. Let's see, they apparently have decided to make their homepage a blog. The negative I would say about this is I see no photos here. No photos, no video, so I think they could stand to jazz this up a little bit more. So I don't know if they're really taking advantage of the freedom, but they are running it the way they want to run it. So that would be the trade-off there. So one more time.
I think that David, one of the things that I think I like to make the point that there's no there's no silver bullet to this.
Right.
Even with Toastmost, you still need probably a Facebook page, YouTube site, a channel, etc., to go and troll, go and publish, but then send them back to this content-rich, relevant, up-to-date,
right.
happening meeting that's happening in the next few days. and then it's easy to get on and try it out. That's what you really want to do. As I keep saying this, my struggle is that in my club, we have a website that's not been updated for 3 years. We have a Easy Speak, which is very static, and okay, it does the job. But the biggest thing is that then it's harder for us to move forward in our PR because we have so many challenges that we haven't had a effective VPPR in 2.5 years. It's just a big old mess, and we just can't get off the ground with it.
Can I
something
add
like this for our club would help us.
Can I add a suggestion to that problem? And I've done that with Global Trainers Online that Nick and I are, Witty Storytellers. They're using Easy Speak, and I'm the treasurer, and I wanted to set up the page to collect the PayPal payments. And I was using Google Docs, but then Google has made some changes to their web pages, and it's difficult to get on there. So I thought, okay, I will start up a Free Toast Toast page for the club, and all it got on there is the information of how to sign up and to go to the Easy Speak site. So that way you're using that as a static, like a poster hanging out there, and if somebody keys in, they wind up there, you direct them to where you want as the main page for your club.
The point is, though, Brian, in this day and age with SEO, you need content-rich and regularly updated pages rather than a static page. You've got to have it really updated regularly.
Yeah, I agree with that. But you're better to have a page there that is, current as far as the links go. Make sure your links are there. But you're better to have a static page that you're not updating that will point to where you want them to point to. Like
right, yeah.
Using the Wayback Machine, I can find my old website that's probably it goes back to the 90s, and it's still there on the Wayback Machine.
Well, I saw a note from Fran pop up pointing out that you can have a pin post on a Facebook page, meaning you pin it to the top of the page, so it's almost always the thing that people see coming in. Yeah, I mean, and I think there was an argument even in a lot of small businesses a few years ago were saying, gee, maybe I don't really need a website because I've got a Facebook page. But one of the challenges of that is Facebook keeps changing the rules of the game. You're sort of building on shifting sands there. I think it's good for you to have sort of your own digital property where you lay things out the way you want to lay them out, not the way the Facebook algorithm wants you to lay them out.
I agree with that.
So we should probably wrap up. Last call for if either Tamara or Fran has a question they want to get in before we wrap.
I posted a bunch of questions through the chat. When you go through the chat afterwards, you'll probably see what I posted. Like, how do you do a 50-50 online? Can you put Zoom training on? Because I'm going to be doing some Zoom training. So could I put that training onto that website? I'm VPPR for 3 of my 4 clubs.
Okay.
So I do a lot of work with Facebook. I'm learning Instagram so that I can start putting some things on Instagram as well. I've also put some stuff on Pinterest. So I'm playing with a lot of things.
Right. Yeah, definitely you could do Zoom training. You could either promote a workshop where you're going to do Zoom training, but you could also post blogs giving some instructional information. Actually, online presenters is a good one to look at because not only stuff that I've posted, but also Roger Fung, our VPE, is a very active pathways outreach person. He's posted educational material about how to do green screens and things like that.
Super. Maybe I'll just go borrow his stuff.
Well, yeah. Borrow it, link to it.
I'll link. Everyone who's got stuff I need, I'll link.
Right.
Fran, I'm the VP of public relations in 3 clubs right now.
As well.
My goal is to be able to get the message to the millennials and the I generation. I don't care about the older people if they can't find a way to.
Well,
We have a mix, young to old. I think I'm almost the oldest in all my clubs.
Can I just say, it's not the age, it's how open you are as a person, how willing you are to actually embrace change. You know, I know some
Absolutely.
of you, one or two people here I know who are very open to change, it's not about age. So when somebody says I'm too old for something, that's just a cop-out.
No, I'm not too old. I'm semi-retired. I'm 70. I'm still working. I'm still learning. I'm still doing all kinds of new things.
I guess one closing thought that I would have along those lines is I am trying to get to the point where this is a little bit less of a one-man show. So anybody who's here who's interested enough to stick in for an hour and 20 minutes, if you can help in terms of training materials, going out and evangelizing it for this a little bit more, so it's not exclusively me blowing my own horn, that would be good. Any kind of help in documentation and training, and I do need some help with figuring out the business model too, because I decided at some point that I was not going to get people to try it if I didn't make it free. And the theory is that I get sponsors and donors to make that possible. And I've gotten a few, but probably need a few more. And probably just not people that I know but it can't be everybody just that I know personally whose arm I was able to twist. I have to get a few more folks out there to help out. And I'm not necessarily trying to shake you down for money. But if you tell me somebody who I can shake down for money, or some organization that wants to reach a global audience of speakers and leaders, we would appreciate the support for this project.
I'm willing to get involved in what you've got, because I know I use WordPress for my own, selling my own book. Okay. So I know what's potentially there, okay. And I've been using databases for 50 years now, and I can get in there with Sue. I'm sure we can make a back end there that I know that Toastmasters can't do it, or they won't do it, but I have some ideas on what you can do to make this product better than any of the other Toastmaster ones, and then you can spin that off as what I look at it as the benefit is, you then spin it off as a management tool for any kind of club. You don't restrict it to Toastmasters.
Yeah, I have some ideas about how this might eventually turn into a business. Right now, I guess it's sort of part of my business, but it's a money-losing part of my business, because I upgraded the server a little while ago, and that's going to cost me another $600 per year. So I got to balance the books at some point. Anyway, thank you all for joining. Kip, maybe we can conspire about how to market this more effectively. One basic challenge is that new clubs don't know it exists.
Right.
And Toastmasters will, so far at least, will not tell them. I've been told that there's somebody in IT at Toastmasters International who is interested in making use of WordPress and wants to talk to me, but I still haven't gotten the name or the introduction. So theoretically,
I've talked to the guy. I've got to do a report for him. So
okay. Well, I'm interested in any introductions there.
Well, the answer to all of this is always findability, right? If we can create something that's findable,
right?
That's the solution. I mean, at least that's the beginning of the solution.
Okay.
And I think I can help with that.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining, and have a great rest of your weekend. Those of you who are